Have you ever seen someone who makes 10, 12, 20 times more money than you and ask yourself the question, how's that even possible? Well, I've wondered that. In fact, I remember a conversation I had with one of my mentors about a certain individual who's on the internet. If I named them, you would know them. And I said, how much money do you think that guy makes? And he said, oh, probably about $800,000 a month. And I thought to myself, $800,000 a month? How do you make that kind of money? And this was back in probably 2015, where I was nowhere near $800,000 a month. And what I discovered is, you can turn your yearly income into your monthly income. And when you do, it's going to absolutely blow your mind. That's what I'm going to show you how to do on this video. So one of the biggest financial breakthroughs I've ever had in my life, and I promise you this is worth writing down. This is in fact, this was not just one of the biggest. It's one of the top 3 breakthroughs, financial breakthroughs I've ever had in my life, and it's the first one I ever had. And I remember when I had it. I had this wake up in April of 1999. And I'm sure you guys probably read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? How many of you all read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? So a lot of you have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and when I read that book, it was like the lights came on. It was like for me, it was like the scales fell off of my eyes in the arena of wealth in a way that had never happened before. And the theme that I got from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like, if I were to sum up that book in a sentence, I would sum it up in this sentence. The thing you have to do to create wealth is to focus on creating income-producing assets. The reason broke people are broke is because they are their only income-producing asset. The reason rich people are rich is because we accumulate income-producing assets. In fact, Daniel Priestley, in his book, Key Person of Influence, he says, income follows assets. So the more assets you have, the more income you have that can follow those assets. So I'm going to show you how, I discovered this principle. It's easier to make $1 million a month than it is to make $1 million a year. And I know that sounds crazy. I get it. It sounds crazy. I'm going to prove it to you, though, in this video, okay? How about that? So it sounds so crazy. It's easier to make $1 million a month. It's easier to make $1 million a month than it is to make $1 million a year. It's easier to make $1 million in a week than it is to make $1 million in a month. And it's easier to make $1 million in a day than it is to make $1 million in a week. And it's easier to make $1 million in an hour than it is to make $1 million in a day. And I know for sure because I've done all of those multiple times. So I'm not talking from theory. I'm not regurgitating something I read in a book or heard at a seminar. This is how I live my life. Okay, so how can I prove to you that it's easier to make a lot of money in a short period of time than it is to make a little money over a long period of time? Well, here's how I can prove it. Because I was talking to a physicist. In fact, I was flying from San Diego, California to Baltimore, Maryland. This was many, many years ago. And this young kid, I say young kid, he's 27. So to me, he was young, right? Because I was in my 40s then, right? And so he sat down beside me. I said, so what do you do for a living? He said, I'm a physicist. I said, I love physics. The only thing I could think of to say. And so we talked about physics from San Diego to Baltimore. For like 4.5 hours, we talked about physics. And one of the questions I asked him, I said, and his name was Austin, and he lives in Boston, so I always remembered him, Austin from Boston, the physicist, right? So I said, Austin from Boston, I got a question for you. What is your favorite physics principle? Like, what would you ask a physicist if you sat down? I mean, surely that would be one of the questions, right? So I said, what's your favorite physics principle? He said this. He said that all principles are microcosms of each other. I said, ooh, that's so good. Ooh, that's so good. I said, but so I don't mess it up, I think I know what you mean when you say that, but you tell me what you mean so that when I share with other people what you said, I won't tell them my interpretation of what you mean, but your interpretation. He said, okay. He said, if you take a principle from any arena and you put it in a different arena, it still has to be true. I said, ooh, that's so good. And he said, like, if you take a principle that works in transportation and you apply it to finance, it still has to be true. I like, okay, that makes sense. And so from that day forward, I've been thinking about, every time I find a principle, oh, I wonder what other arena this can go in. I read a book called Innovation Secrets of Steve Jobs by Carmine Gallo. And he said, and the book was a great book, he said, the reason Steve Jobs was able to change the world, in fact, Steve Jobs is the only entrepreneur I can think of that revolutionized 5 different industries in his lifetime, which is kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. He revolutionized the computer industry, he revolutionized the phone industry, he revolutionized the music industry, the movie industry, and the tablet industry. Revolutionized them, like totally turned them on their heads. And Carmine Gallo said the reason he was able to do that is because he had so many unique, broad experiences that he could see the connection between seemingly unrelated things. So when he looked at his computer and he saw the ugly green blinking font on a dark background on a computer screen, he said, these fonts are ugly. But he took a calligraphy class when he was in college. He said, why don't we make fonts beautiful? And it's that kind of connection that changed everything for him. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to prove to you it's easier to make a lot of money in a short period of time than it is to make a little money over a long period of time. Do we have any athletes in here who run? Any runners? Okay, so Tim, you run. Do you ever run a mile? Yeah. Tim runs, so Tim sometimes runs a mile. Great. So can you run a mile right now? Could you run a mile right now if you need to? Okay. So I can't run a mile. I had polio as an infant. I got a brace on my leg. I've never run anywhere in my life. As I like to say, I couldn't run, so I learned how to fight, right? So if Tim and I got in a race, how many of y'all would agree that it wouldn't be fair for us to both go the same distance? How many of y'all would agree with that, right? That's not fair. Like, I can't run, he can run. Obviously, he's gonna like just murderalize me. And so let's go 2 different distances. I'm gonna go 2 miles, you're gonna run a mile. Uh-oh, did I say it backwards? My dyslexia kicked in again. Yeah, I didn't want to do that. By the way, I'm a directional dyslexic. If I go somewhere, I'll go the wrong way going back to where I came from 9 times out of 10, okay? So anyway, don't judge me, just pray for me. Okay, so I think I just said that backwards. Since I said it backwards, and I'm a man of my word, I have to stick with my word. So now we're gonna get in this race, and now not only am I gonna lose because I can't run, but now I'm going farther. How many of y'all know I'm gonna get like smeared, right? Wave at me, talk to me, my peeps. Exactly. Everybody say unless. Unless Tim is running and I'm on a bicycle. Because I said he's gonna run a mile, I said I'm gonna go 2 miles. I didn't say I was gonna run 2 miles. You say, what does this have to do with making money? Just pump the brakes, I'm getting there. But that's not fair because I got a bike. By the way, I can ride a bike 2 miles faster than he can run 1 mile. I go farther, faster, and use less energy. So what do we learn from that principle? The people who are making way more money than you are not making more money than you because they're working harder than you. In fact, they're making more money than you because they're not working harder than you. Oh, snap. But it gets better. Because that's not fair. I've got a bike, he doesn't have a bike, so we're gonna give him a bike. And now I'm gonna go 4 miles, he's gonna go 2 miles, he's gonna win again. Everybody say unless. Unless I'm in a car. Maybe this is what they mean when they say think and grow rich. But that's not fair. I've got a car, he has a bike. And so let's give Tim a car. So Tim's got a car, he goes 50 miles, I go 100 miles, Tim wins again. Everybody say unless. Unless I'm on a plane. But that's not fair. I've got a plane. He's got a car, let's give him a plane. He goes 100 miles, I go 200 miles, he wins again. Everybody say unless. Unless I'm on a jet. Now you say, Myron, why do you keep doing this? I keep doing this because the principle is this. I can always make up and leverage what I lack in ability. It is always easier to make great strides than it is to make great advances, small advances. It's always, everybody say always. It's always easier to make great strides than it is to make small advances. But because you've been programmed by the cultural hypnotic societal mechanism and you spent the majority of your young life in the government indoctrination camps, AKA child prisons, schools, whatever you want to call them, since you spent most of your life in that arena, what happened was you were programmed to make small advances over a long period of time and nobody ever taught you how to make great gains over a very short period of time. How many of y'all picking up what I'm putting down? Wave at me. And so what has to happen is if you're gonna make great strides, you have to learn to think differently. I said I can always make up and leverage what I lack in ability. But here's why most people don't do that. Because they don't understand that leveraged work is better than laborious work, yes. Right? It produces more. It uses less energy. It's more effective, it's more efficient, it's better in every conceivable way. And so what you have to do is the reason most people never get rich is because they spend their entire life running financially. But people who make a little bit more money, they get a bicycle. People who make a lot more money, they get a car. People who make more money than they have time to spend, they either have a plane or a jet. Some people are on like intergalactic rocket ships when it comes to finance. See, if you take that same principle, if it's easier to go farther, faster, and use less energy in transportation, it has to be true that it's easier to make more money working less if you have the right leverage. But see, when you tell some people this, even some people watching this video, like because you were programmed to be negative and you think you're skeptical, like I recommend skepticism, right? I'm skeptical. Here's what skeptical means. Skeptical means like, I don't know you, so I don't trust you. So I'll believe you when you prove you're telling the truth. But negativism says, I got my mind made up and I don't want to be confused with the facts, right? No, that can't be true. Okay, well, for you it can't be. So here's why people stay broke, because what they do is you say, look, you can always make up leverage when you lack an ability, and they say, yeah, but how much does leverage cost? That's a question to ask, but over time, how much does it cost you not to have leverage? That's a better question to ask. And so what happens is they say, yeah, but then if I get some leverage, then I got to learn how to use it. I don't have time to learn how to use leverage. How many of y'all know I'm telling the truth, right? But I don't know how to do that. Okay. We'll give you a pass today, but if that's still your excuse a year from now, maybe somebody should come get your family and take them to safety. Because you can learn how to do almost anything in a year. So what we have to do is we have to slow down from the running that's all we know is already not working long enough to find some leverage, pay for it if necessary, take the time to learn how to use it if necessary, so we can finally change our lives. Or we can spend the rest of our life in the circle of sameness. Hey, thanks for watching this video. I hope you're enjoying it, but I want to take some time to invite you to join us at the Make More Offers Challenge. The Make More Offers Challenge, we do it once a month where I invite a bunch of entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs to come and have me teach them in detail the 4 moves that can scale any business. I want to invite you to join us on the Make More Offers Challenge. Click the link in the description below. You will be glad you did. Join as a VIP and you make the rest of your life the best of your life. And now, back to the video you were watching. Y'all have heard me teach you on the 4 levels of value. So in Genesis chapter 1, God set up 4 levels of value. Which one of these levels you work on? See, here's the lie we believe. We believe the lie that if I deliver more value, then I should be paid more money. Here's the problem with that. More value doesn't generally make you exponentially more money. See, giving someone more of what's already not worth it doesn't mean you deserve more money. So instead of giving more value, learn to work at a higher level of value. Like all value is not created equally. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that I'm delivering a lot of value at the highest levels. That's what will make you a multimillionaire. Say, I don't want to be a multimillionaire. Okay, then deliver a little value at a higher level. And you can double your revenue, you can double your income. So the lowest level of value is implementation, right? Implementation, okay, so I'm going to give you another thought to think about while you're thinking about the thought I just gave you. Wealth is a spiritual outcome. Wealth is a spiritual outcome. God is not a God of lack. He is a God of abundance. The gold is mine and the silver is mine, saith the Lord. That's what the Bible says. So wealth is a spiritual outcome. The reason implementation is the lowest level of value is because the resource you use on this level is you use your muscles times time. And muscles, watch this now, are a physical resource. And time is a limited resource. So if you are multiplying a physical resource times a limited resource, you cannot get an unlimited spiritual result. Am I swinging too fast this morning? Little rope-a-dope. This can't work. This is what we call, when it comes to making money, you are running financially. And the only thing you ever do to attempt to increase your income is buy some new running shoes. That's why people go from job to job to job to job to job, and then they go back to school so they can get a more expensive pair of shoes, but they're still running. And it doesn't work. And so what we have to do is we have to level up to a higher level of value. Now, the second level of value is unification. Unification, on this level, you use your management skills times people times time to make money. And managing people is a higher spiritual activity than doing the thing yourself. See, this is called leverage by delegation, right? So you're leveraged by delegation. So down here on this level, you're gonna make somewhere between minimum wage and $80,000 a year. $80,000 a year if you work on high-end cars, okay? But on this level, you're gonna make somewhere between $40,000 a year and $250,000. $250,000 a year. Well, that's better. How many of y'all agree that's better, right? That's better, but when it comes to income, one of the things that I would recommend that you use as a standard for yourself moving forward, when it comes to income, I like floors, but I don't like ceilings. Right? Floors, no ceilings. So there's a minimum amount I don't want to go below, but there's no maximum amount I don't desire to go above. Are y'all tracking? Okay? So the next level is where wealth begins to be created above this line. Wealth begins to be created above this line. And above this line, you could make anywhere from 100K to 100 million. What is that level? It's called communication. And on the communication level of value, you're using your mouth to make money. And somehow or another, something about this. Now, here's what's really interesting. Are y'all ready? How can it be possible that talking makes you more money than hammering nails or carrying bricks? Carrying bricks is way harder. Hammering nails is way harder. How is it possible that somebody who talks makes exponentially more money than somebody who drives a truck across the country? Driving a truck across the country is way harder because you don't get paid based on the level of difficulty of the work you do. You get paid based on the level of value of the work you're delivering on. And see, when you can communicate, you can create messages that move the masses. You can have conversations that create cash flow. And guess what is interesting about language, communication? Only spiritual beings have language. In fact, if you took some money out of your wallet right now, $20 bill, $100 bill, I left my wallet in the other room, $20 bill, $100 bill, whatever, you got it in your hand, you got this money in your hand, you look at it, what's backing it? What's backing our currency in the United States of America? What backs it? Nothing. There's nothing that backs it. Since Nixon took us off the gold standard, there's nothing backing the money. So how could $100 be worth $100 if there's nothing backing it? Here's how. Because we believe it's worth it, because here's what it says, $100. So $100 is worth $100. Watch this now, because of the message it carries and the faith it creates. And language and faith are both spiritual. Are y'all tracking with me? And so, better than getting a better job, it would serve you and your family better to become a better communicator. Like, you'll make $100,000 a year if you're down here selling cars. If you're an A-list actor, an A-list singer, or you're a songwriter or a film writer or a script writer for movies, you might make $100 million a year. Actors make tens and hundreds of millions of dollars communicating fake messages. How much money could you make if you delivered a real message? It's like total game changer. And here's what's amazing. I don't know what adults said to you when you were a child, but when I was a child, here's what adults said. Children are to be seen and not heard. We are programmed not to talk. If you're in school and you start talking, you get in trouble for talking. And so talking is not something that we said, you know what, one of these days I'm gonna grow up and I'm just gonna talk for a living. I'm gonna write books and communicate messages. I'm gonna sell stuff. I'm gonna write songs. Because they also gave us a identity. You're not smart enough to write books. You don't sing good enough to sing songs. Am I telling y'all the truth? And we bought the lie, and it's already cost us a fortune. And so 100,000, 100 million, and then the top level, it's crazy, but it's not crazy. The top level is imagination. This is where the great fortunes are made. Imagination, on this level, you use your mind, and you use your money and money to make money. Up here, on the low end, you're like at the bottom of the top, you're gonna make $1 million a year. I remember, I can remember, do I have time to tell you the story? I do. I remember back in, I think it was 2005, I was making about $30,000 a month. I was making more money than anybody in my sphere of influence. I thought I was a baller. I'm making $30,000 a month. I was like, yeah, bro, we doing things. And my expenses were like $5,000 a month. So it was like nothing by comparison, right? And I went to this Robert G. Allen wealth retreat seminar in Washington, D.C. And Robert G. Allen was one of the people who I learned a lot of stuff from. I read a lot of his books. His book was the first book I read on internet marketing, called Multiple Streams of Internet Marketing. So I read a lot of his books. I had listened to a lot of his audio programs. And he asked for a testimony. I said, yeah, I'm doing great. I've been like using your stuff for the last couple of years. I got a 6 CD series that I got from you that I listen to all the time. And I used to be a trash man making $6.25 an hour, and now I'm living like a king. I'm making $30,000 a month. He's like, wow, you're doing really good. You're about to have a breakthrough to the really big money. And there were 700 people there. My first thought was, did he just diss my $30,000 a month in front of 700 people? How dare he? And then I thought, wait, there's a level where $30,000 a month ain't a lot of money? Oh, let's go. You don't have to tell me twice. Let's go. Right? And so the only limitations that you really have are the ones that you carry around with you in your mind that cause you to put on the brakes when you should step on the gas. You talking good right now, man. Okay, so you're high end. Now we got people making trillions. We got trillionaires in the world now. Trillions. I promise you one thing. The people above this dotted line are not participating in a recession. Why? They got too much financial aggression, right? They out there doing stuff. And so you could literally give yourself a raise just by making a decision, not a choice, a decision. Choice, like choose means pick one, but to decide means to cut your day of or from, side to cut yourself off from any other possibility. When you cut yourself off from any other possibility other than the fact, this is what I'm gonna do, this is what my life is gonna be about, and nothing's gonna stop me from creating the life of my dreams. When that becomes your mantra, when that becomes your decision, you can't be, they can't stop you. Yeah, but you don't understand. I'm a woman and a man. The men can't stop you. I'm a black man in a white man's world. White man can't stop you. I'm a white man in a black man's world. Black man can't stop you. There is no excuse. The limitation exists in your head. And so what you do is you go around acting as if it exists around you when it only exists within you. And I am telling you, if you will get better at thinking and better at talking, you will make more money. I'm not saying you might. And then you decide to go into a career where instead of just managing people who are doing stuff or doing stuff yourself, you decide, I'm going to start communicating messages that create cash flow, and I'm going to start having conversations that create cash flow and coming up with messages that move the masses. It'll change your life for the rest of your life. Here's what's fascinating to me. I have told thousands of people this, what I'm about to tell you. Some of the thousands are still yet to get started. Okay. What I'm about to share with you, and I'm here to let you know, if we have a $800,000 month, we had a bad month. If we have $1 million month, we did not have a good month. And I'm not bragging. Oh, Myron, you're so rich and you're so wonderful. Kind of rich, sometimes a little wonderful, but other times, not so much. But I am here to let you know that you can raise the floor and eliminate the ceiling. And it'll change your life. Well, Myron, how can you say $1 million month is not a good month? Because I've just decided that I don't want a floor that's down at $1 million anymore. Are y'all, who gets to decide that? Everybody tap yourself on the chest, say I do. So if you decide that I'm going to go into a career, so let me talk about these careers here. So what can I do here? What can I do moving up into here? Well, you could become an A-list actor or an A-list singer. What are the chances? Not great, right? How many of y'all would agree that's not great, right? That's not great. It's not great. Now, granted, I could become, I'm pretty theatrical. Just saying. Okay. Don't laugh so loud, you might hurt my feelings. Okay. So, Trudy, I don't know if I'm going to be able to let you in anymore. Okay, so you become an A-list actor, but it's not likely to happen. You could become like a pop music star, or a rap music star, or a professional. No, we're not going to talk about professional athletes because they're down here. They do really good for a short period of time, and then what happens? They tear their bodies up, and then, unfortunately, most of them retire broke. Right? But up here, since being the next Beyonce, it's probably not gonna, you being the next Taylor Swift, probably not gonna happen, right? You being the next Denzel Washington, okay? Maybe not, right? So what else could you do? Here's something any of us in here could do. Here's something any of you watching this video could do. Anybody could write a book. I remember before I wrote From the Trash Man to the Cash Man, my first book. And it wasn't called From the Trash Man to the Cash Man when I first wrote it. It was called The Ebony Treasure Map, The Roadmap to Riches for African Americans. Okay? That was the first title of that book when I wrote it in 2006. Before I wrote it, I went to a book marketing conference in Orlando. I lived in Pennsylvania. It was 5 days. And at that conference, I spent $18,000 on courses and coaching programs to teach me how to become a best-selling author. And one of the statistics they gave at that conference was there are over 500,000 books published in the United States of America every year. Less than 5% of them ever sell 500 copies. 500. I was like, okay. So I wrote my book, Ebony Treasure Map. Guess how many I got printed in my first run? 500. But when the book got published and I sent an email to my list, guess how many I sold the first week? 900 books. I immediately had to go back into print. I was like, what? The Ebony Treasure Map, the Roadmap to Riches for African Americans. And we sold 900 copies the first week. I was like, oh snap, this book thing is a thing that's a thing. Just our books generate between $30,000 and $40,000 a month. And I don't even have a publisher. I publish my own books. I self-publish my own books. I tell people this, so why and how does that happen? Here's what I tell people all the time. I got started on YouTube. You don't have to be smart. I mean, it helps, but it's not necessary, right? I got started on YouTube March 15th, 2007. Okay, y'all tracking? I found out about YouTube monetization in October of 2021. I was on YouTube for 14 years before I knew there was such a thing as YouTube monetization. By the time I turned on monetization, our YouTube channel already had just under 10,000 subscribers. I left all that money on the table. Then we started getting consistent with videos. I decided I am going to make a video once a week. I'm going to post a video once a week, and I'm going to do it for 10 years, and I'm going to see if I can get good at this. But I got a little excited. We got a bunch of views. We got a bunch of subscribers. And I said, well, maybe I'll do 2 videos a week. I started doing 2 videos a week. We did 8 videos starting April of last year. We had 10,500 subscribers last year. Hear me when I'm telling you. We had 10,500 subscribers. And I started doing 2 videos a week, 1 recorded, 1 live. And guess what happened? The first month, we made $1,400 from YouTube. The second month, $15,000. The next month, $27,000. The next month, $44,000. That's not going to happen for you. I'm just keeping it real. I didn't expect it to happen for me. But the reason it happened was because I spent I spent more than that. From the time I started public speaking when I was 17. I spent decades getting good at talking and practicing talking. But guess what? The more you practice, the better you get. That's why I say start a YouTube channel. Decide you're going to do a consistent monthly, once a month or once a week video for 10 years. And after 10 years, I promise you, you will be good. And you'll probably be making more money on YouTube then than I'm making right now. And by the way, the money that YouTube pays us, which is between $35,000, $36,000, and $50,000 a month, is less than 5% of our business revenue. Why? Because YouTube is the place where people find me. You know why? I open my mouth and turn a camera on. And I keep telling people that. Like, if you're going to operate up here in the communication realm, you have to have a mouth. How many of y'all qualify so far? Okay, then you have to be willing to use it to create a message that somebody cares about. Okay, so how do you do that? Well, here's what you do. You go read the Innovation Secrets of Steve Jobs and you start applying that principle to your life, that all principles are microcosms of each other. And then you read more books and watch less television. And you figure out some concepts that work for you, you make them work for you, and after they work for you, you go back to the marketplace and report on how they worked. And the more you read, and the more you talk, and the more you write, the better you will get at communication, and the better you will get at thinking. Here's why. Because you can speak without thinking. We've all said, oh man, if I would have thought first, I wouldn't have said that, right? But you can't think without using words. Communication is the essential ingredient for both the 2 top levels of value. And the people who are the best communicators with the best ideas will always be the ones that make the most money. And that's how you can turn your yearly income into your monthly income in what will feel like next to no time at all. Certainly in less time than you've already been on this planet. Hope this helps you. Stay blessed by the best, and I'll see you on the next video.